Caitlin Clark walked into Gainbridge Fieldhouse on Friday night already furious, not at the Golden State Valkyries, and not at the opposing defensive game plan. She was completely, unapologetically angry at the false and insulting narrative surrounding her. Every transcendent athlete eventually reaches a breaking point, the moment they realize they are fighting an exhausting battle on multiple fronts. The day before tip-off, Clark sat at the press conference podium and completely shut down the misleading media narrative. Looking directly into the cameras, she corrected the inaccurate injury timeline that had been falsely reported all week. She calmly stated the undeniable facts and made it clear that the rumors were completely exaggerated.
And I actually went back and looked, because of all these narratives that are going crazy online, about when I told my mom I wasn't going to play the game. 4:47, and you guys found out at 5:20. So, one of the most important people in my life found out 40 minutes before you guys.
That was Caitlin Clark telling the entire basketball world that the idea of an injury report cover-up was completely ridiculous because the timeline was extremely tight and straightforward. She looked angrier than she had at any press conference this season. Then, the very next night, she turned that frustration into one of the most dominant and entertaining performances the Indiana Fever have ever witnessed. Welcome back to WNBA Pro. Today, we are breaking down the most ruthless, vindicating, and aggressive performance of Caitlin Clark's professional career. This game combined the raw emotion of a superstar pushed to her limit with the undeniable reality of a 90-82 victory. What Clark did against the Golden State Valkyries was not just a masterpiece, it was a statement directed at the media, the league, and every narrative trying to diminish her impact. We are going to break down the physical battle she survived, the double technical foul that awakened another level in her game, and the brutally honest admission from the opposing head coach that proved Clark is nearly unstoppable. The box score only tells part of the story. The actual game felt like a complete basketball war.
They kind of did everything they could to stop Caitlin. And you got to give Nakase credit, because she is the guard stopper. That's her thing. That's her thing. She's able to stop guards. And she did everything to try to stop Caitlin. It didn't work.
The first half was extremely physical. The Valkyries entered Indianapolis with a carefully designed defensive strategy created by head coach Natalie Nakase, one of the smartest defensive minds in the WNBA. Nakase had studied Clark's game extensively since her historic Iowa run. She understood the mechanics of Clark's step-back jumper, her deep shooting range, and the hesitation moves that create space for pull-up shots. The entire defensive plan focused on disrupting those strengths through relentless pressure and physical play. Multiple defenders crowded Clark on every possession, making catches difficult and preventing her from settling into a comfortable rhythm. For much of the first 2 quarters, the strategy worked. The constant contact disrupted timing and made it difficult for Clark to control the pace of the game. However, if the Valkyries believed that physicality would make Clark back down, they completely misunderstood her mentality and competitive nature.
Before we get to the Gabby Williams, what?
Right before the break, we got a little John going on. Caitlin says, "Hey, you
Look,
and me, Hayes, you
Kelly,
and me."
look at Caitlin blowing her kisses. Caitlin blew her kisses, bro. Look. So no, it was Janelle Sloan and Caitlin Clark. Referees had to step in. Look at Caitlin, guys.
At the peak of the first half, the tension finally exploded. Clark attacked the basket aggressively and swiped at a loose ball held by Valkyries forward Janelle Sloan. Sloan immediately reacted to the contact and stepped directly into Clark's face. The two exchanged heated words while players from both benches slowly moved toward the court. Veronica Burton quickly stepped in to separate them, and officials handed out double technical fouls, one to Clark and one to Sloan. Both teams headed into halftime with the arena filled with tension, as if everyone knew the game was about to explode in the second half. What many people failed to understand was what that moment meant psychologically for Clark. She is not the type of player who starts meaningless confrontations. Instead, she absorbs emotion and turns it into motivation. Combined with the exhausting week of media scrutiny surrounding her injury, that altercation created the perfect storm of competitive anger. You do not break a generational player with criticism and cheap shots. Sometimes, you only unleash something even more dangerous.
It's damn near altering the game, bro. It's just damn near altering the game. Let me pull this up real quick. Let me pull the game cast back up real quick. So it's another timeout. So the Fever call a full time. Why would Stephanie White call a timeout? I don't know what happened. I got to see what happened, guys.
Clark came out in the third quarter looking completely transformed. Early in the half, she calmly crossed half court, stepped near the logo over 33 feet away, and drilled a massive three-pointer to tie the game at 48. After an exhausting week filled with criticism and controversy, she answered the noise with a fearless shot from deep. Then, instead of quietly jogging back on defense, she turned toward veteran guard Tiffany Hayes and exchanged confident trash talk. It was not disrespectful or malicious, it was the kind of competitive fire shared between elite athletes in meaningful moments. The crowd inside Gainbridge Fieldhouse erupted with energy. It felt like Clark was releasing every ounce of frustration built up from the media narratives and the physical defense she had faced all night. That sequence, the deep logo 3 followed by the fearless confidence, perfectly captured who Caitlin Clark truly is. Not the limited version critics try to describe, but the superstar capable of taking over games under pressure. She took a difficult week full of negativity and responded by completely changing the momentum of the game.
Aaliyah Boston of Kelsey assist. Caitlin Clark makes 2 free throws. Tip Hayes hits a 3. Sophie Cunningham makes a free throw. Caitlin hits a big 3 to tie it up from like 30. From 30. They go hit a 3. Hines Allen's okay. And then suddenly it's like Caitlin makes a real tough layup and 1. She makes a super tough and 1 to give the Fever the lead for the first time. Caitlin misses a circus shot, then hits Sophie.
Lexi Hull doing it all on that defensive possession. Clark. Oh! From another stratosphere!
Once Clark hit that deep three-pointer, Natalie Nakase's defensive strategy began to collapse. The moment defenders adjusted to stop her shooting range, passing lanes opened everywhere. Clark immediately took advantage, creating transition opportunities and delivering precise passes to her teammates. She finished the game with 22 points, 9 assists, and 4 made three-pointers while playing 32 intense minutes. The Valkyries' defense simply could not sustain its pressure for an entire game against a player with Clark's offensive brilliance. When Clark controls the pace with that level of efficiency, the entire Indiana Fever roster benefits. Aaliyah Boston delivered one of her strongest performances of the season, dominating inside with 20 points and 16 rebounds while shooting efficiently in the paint. Clark's ability to push the tempo and create opportunities unlocked the best version of Boston's game. Together, they looked like a legitimate championship-level duo.
16 rebounds with 24 seconds left in this one. Caitlin Clark don't look like she's going to get a double-double, but you never know. You just never know. But they out-fouling, so I doubt she get it. 22, 9 and 2. 22, 9 and 2. Solid numbers, bro. Caitlin Clark been averaging 20 points a game, guys.
Even opposing head coach Natalie Nakase openly admitted after the game that Clark made incredible adjustments throughout the night. Nakase explained that Clark identified the smallest openings in the defensive scheme and exploited them with precise passing and elite decision-making. Teams can prepare for her logo shooting and step-back moves, but they cannot fully prepare for a player capable of reading defensive weaknesses in real time and attacking them instantly. That is what separates great players from generational talents. The Indiana Fever improved to 4-2, Clark looked completely healthy, and the momentum surrounding the team suddenly felt very real. This is the version of Caitlin Clark the league fears most: focused, emotional, fearless, and fully in control. The trash-talking, logo-shooting, team-carrying superstar version. On Friday night, she reminded every reporter, executive, and defender exactly who she is.